Thomas and Friends Season 25 to 28. The Young Trains Crew Reboot era. It was a complete retcon of the original series all along, just wrapped up its fourth season with the final movie to close off the show, and opened up a lot of questions for Season 5, like why didn't... Slight correction. Fourth and final season. Whoops. After the original series was canceled after 24 seasons, leading the show to go out with a whimper. Mattel decided to reboot the show for a new generation a year after it ended, as if the franchise just can't catch a break. The teaser poster was revealed in 2020, and the trailer was accidentally leaked super early in January 2021, and they got a lot of people upset, and that was me. It had different and cheap 2D animation, it had no connection to the original series, it was a super goofy and cartoony baby show, and not another down-to-earth show about real trains that would have real weight. Many characters looked inaccurate to their original counterparts. Thomas, along with Percy, Nia, and Diesel are now little children. Carly is now a crane engine, which we'll get to in a minute. Two new characters, Kana and Sandy, who are just suddenly thrown into the main cast of characters without any introduction. Gordon and the tender engines are now adults and bigger than the tank engines and diesel engines, so as a result, child trains and adult trains exist in this show. Sure, Thomas had more of a bubbly childlike personality, and Gordon was more of a pompous adult in the original series, but this show dials it up to 11, to the point where the tender engines are twice the height of the quote-unquote children. Speaking of Thomas, he's the main star in almost every episode, leaving no room for the other characters to take the spotlight. This is something completely different, and starting all over again from scratch. If you watched my original review, for All Engines Go, I said that I wanted to distance myself from watching new Thomas episodes. I tried to watch Season 1, but then gave up halfway through the season. That because this show was so unenjoyable to watch, I couldn't stand what was going on at the time. But then when I heard about the returning characters and another new character, called Bruno, I thought they would get me back into watching this show, but my interest rate just wasn't there. It hasn't been for several years. But for this video, I actually sat down and watched the entirety of All Engines Go. I am not kidding. I had no choice but to do it anyway, just to be more accurate. And that's 4 whole seasons, 4 full-hour movies, and even a half-hour YouTube special. I never wanted to do this review, but now that we're 4 seasons into the show, I feel like it would be an appropriate time to review the show. But this time, I'll try to not sound like a whiny little shit who rage reviews all the time, and actually talk about its biggest problems and start praising some of the high points. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The show aired on Cartoonito in September of 2021, oddly when the kids went back to school, and it had a lot more things in it than in the trailers. The engines now use wheels as hands, despite Mattel saying in an interview they don't want to use wheels as hands. We see a lot more recognizable characters, and a lot of them retain their original counterparts. The other characters, however, are now mixed in terms of likability and personality, while they somewhat maintain their original counterparts. They're also mostly changed to different counterparts. Thomas is now a child character who now wants to have fun rather than doing work, and is a bit less cheeky than before. Percy is basically Henry from the Brenner era, a completely scared and wimpy baby who also goes along with whatever stupid stuff Thomas does. Annie and Clarabelle are no longer just Thomas's coaches anymore. Now they can be anyone's coaches now. The troublesome trucks went from troublemaking trucks who love causing trouble to being reduced to 2 one-note jokesters that have an elderly duo. The fat guy, Sir Topham Hatt, is no longer a railway controller that appears regularly to give the engines their tasks, and is now just a joke. He's dumb, he screws up, and overreacts to everything. If you thought the Brenner era made Sir Topham Hatt look stupid, this reboot/show makes him look even stupider and just a complete joke. Diesel is no longer the big bad villain who thinks diesels are better than steamies anymore. He's now just a redeemed villain and one of Thomas's friends with no redemption arc. And that's not a bad decision at all, as in the first episode of Season 21, it looked like he was going to get a redemption arc, as now won't be bumping into engines anymore. The problem, however, is that it was undone after that episode. He just reverted back to being a one-note bully again. So as a result, Him being a good guy and Thomas's friend in the reboot was not earned and was way too sudden. Carly is now a crane engine, which is not only jarring but also completely pointless, because Cranky and Beresford never turn into crane engines. And what's even more insulting is that a new character called Tess was introduced in Season 2, and she looks so much like Carly, so what even was the point? If they wanted a crane engine into the main cast, then it would have made more sense if they could have easily used Harvey. He exists. Rebecca is nowhere to be seen in this reboot. I'm shocked. Well done, Mattel. Emily transports Sir Topham. Hat anywhere. Instead of Winston for the first 2 seasons, Whiff is now a mad scientist who recycles things. Gordon is now a kind father figure, which is a welcome change of pace. But I just wish he was still pompous from time to time. Henry and Edward are completely useless. In the BWBA era, because Nia and Rebecca replaced them, they were reduced to minor characters while also still having time to shine in their appearances, especially Edward. Now All Engines Go takes it to an even further extent, as now they're just background characters who never speak at all, nor are they referred to by name, even though changing characters isn't automatically a bad thing. I can't say that's the case for the reboot, as now they're just bland and forgettable and their old personas don't mix in. The best part about the reboot is James. He's been a mostly consistent character even in the bad seasons of the original series, and now this reboot. He still retains his boastful self. He also has the best redesign that is more faithful to the original design. Many other characters retain their original personalities as well. The only character that's an improvement over her original counterpart is Nia, which is a huge surprise considering she's literally a disgusting, forced, diverse garbage character that somehow never gets deported by Donald Trump, considering she was just an absolutely nothing character all throughout the BWBA series, making her presence feel pointless. Here in All Engines Go, she actually has a personality of being smooth and calm with the love of music. Her being from Africa is mentioned a lot less than in the original series. It felt like she actually served a purpose. Where was this character the entire time up until now? Even in a show that completely misunderstands and disregards the original source material. I'll even go as to say that even Carly, despite having an unnecessarily drastic change to her design, is a way better developed character than in the original series and has a great dynamic with Sandy. As for the new characters, Kana and Sandy I thought were okay. I think Sandy does have some cute moments, and she does look a bit like her real-life basis. But Kana looks almost nothing like her basis, and I bet was inspired from like Coco from Chuggington with the speedy personality, and it gets even worse from here as Riff and Jiff and Verona and Federico look so much like toys and nothing like their basis. The intro is pretty catchy, but is way too short, and is 15 seconds long, which is a laughable runtime for a Thomas intro. It would have been better if they used the 30-second or even the 1-minute intro they had instead. The voice acting may be annoying to listen to, but looking back at it, it's actually not as annoying as Bob the Builder Reboot's voice acting for Scoop, Muck, and Lofty. Those are way more annoying and ear-piercing to listen to, period. The writing of the show isn't actually that bad. Sure, it does talk down to kids, but on its own, it's pretty solid and good for children to watch. This may sound controversial, but even this reboot is better than the Miller era. Sure, the Miller era looks more like Thomas when it comes to the aesthetic, but writing and aesthetic are two different things. All Engines Go isn't as formulaic as the Miller era, neither does it rely on repetitive rhyming or alliteration. The morals are also very solid, even if they talk down to kids, unlike in the classic series where you can just think about what we just learned in an episode. So overall, the writing is kind of just average at best. Most episodes are lazy and unoriginal, as they're mostly rehashes of so many episodes of the original series and stereotypical plot lines and titles. It's like Mattel were clearly running out of original ideas and decided to rehash so many episodes from the original show instead. Not to mention that some episodes even reuse episode titles from the classic series, like, for example, Thomas's Day Out, which is a Season 9 episode, and Ghost Train, which is a Season 2 episode, and the same episode as that one from the original show. making the show even less special and more of a rehash of the week kind of show. Then Season 2 happened, and I thought it was a much better season. Thomas started to get less focus in favor of other characters. The original personalities for the characters started to come back, including Thomas himself, even if it's kind of aged down now. It introduced Bruno, who is easily one of the better. New All Engines Go characters in the show, and another one of the good parts of this reboot. He's a disabled autistic character, and it's great to see some form of diversity with the characters, such as autistic representation. A lot more characters make a return, such as Ashima Whiff, who was mentioned in Season 1, but finally shown on screen in this season. Salty, Toby the Tram Engine even. Beresford also makes a return in this season and can literally travel anywhere now, which is just insane given that even rolling cranes never travel anywhere in reality. Terrence also makes a return, but I'm very torn on it. Almost every returning character retain their original personalities, but Terrence is the complete opposite, as he is now a hyperactive kid who causes mischief all the time instead of a more down-to-earth and calm tractor from the original. He also has ADHD, something he never had before. If this was a different character all along, then I would be okay with that, especially given how refreshing it is to see autistic and ADHD representation in a show like Thomas. And yes, it still doesn't feel like anything special, but overall, Season 2 was a much better All Engines Go season and a fitting way to wrap this series up. But then, after the success of Season 1, we got 2 more seasons. So then we get to Season 3, and this is where the show starts to kind of slow down. The only returning characters we see are Winston, which begs me the question: why wasn't he here to transport Sir Topham Hatt in the first place, only for Emily to transport him instead? And overall, I thought this was just a 26-episode build-up season for an epic final Season 4, hence why it feels kind of slow. Now all of a sudden we get to Season 4 and you would think this would be the season where we see Duck, Donald, and Douglas return on screen, right? I mean, the marketing was hyping up their return for so long, yet the only time we see Duck was in the final movie, and he only showed up and did nothing for 2 seconds with even his slip coaches, just like Edward and Henry, which is super disappointing. What makes it even more disappointing is that Edward and Henry at least have a reason to be background characters, as they've been there since Season 1. But Duck just shows up on Sodor as another background character out of nowhere, and we don't know where he's been throughout the entire show up until now, and he looks nothing like the toy at all. As for Donald and Douglas, no sign of them, even though they made a Trackmaster Donald. So what was the point of making toys of Duck and Donald if they're just going to end up being wasted in the show? It could have been better had they returned in Season 4. But nope. To be honest, the entire finale felt like they were way too confident in setting up for Season 5 until they decide in the 11th hour it's canceled because a lot of people hated this show. And to be honest, there is no Season 5. Enough people working on the show kind of left, and Nelvana, a company that co-produced the show, is shutting down. There's also some more things that they teased throughout the show, but then they're never really resolved by the end of the series. For example, the Flying Scotsman was mentioned in Season 2, and I thought it was teasing his return on screen for the later episodes and seasons, kind of like what we saw with Whiff, but then even by the end of the series, we never actually got to see him on screen. It's weird because when the show started, I thought it was going to be like the original series, where it starts off with a small number of characters and bringing back Moraeus it progress. And it kind of did that, but then it just stopped bringing back more characters after Winston showed up in Season 3, while also completely leaving out many important characters, such as the Skarloey railway engines, the Sodor construction crew, even fan favorites such as Donald and Douglas. Despite the marketing hype, like I said, Oliver, his brake van Toad, Rosie, Ryan, Stanley, the Sodor China Clay crew, Harvey, Bertie the bus, Bulgy the double-decker bus, Rocky, Porter, Mr. Bubbles, Lady Hat, Victor, Kevin, the Arlesdale railway engines, and many other characters, which is very disappointing, especially for Bertie, Bulgy, and Jack and the pack, because what made Thomas so interesting is that it wasn't just a show about talking trains and cranes, it was also a show about talking buses and construction trucks, and the fact that we never saw any of them makes it even more disappointing. The only construction character we see is Darcy. yet we barely see her at all because of the show's awful premise. Another thing is, we thought they were still working on getting voice actors for Edward and Henry, which would be the reason why they haven't spoken, but then by the end of the series we never even got to hear their voices. They end up as generic, lifeless background characters who serve no purpose apart from fan service. We do see Henry in the final movie, yet all we hear is nothing. We all know the Glup Shido cameo variety is bad at times, but honestly, I'm not sure which is worse at this point. As for the movies, I did not care for any of them at all. They're just generic stories and rehashes of the original movies, and were honestly so bad. Race for the Sodor Cup is just a Great Race rehash. The Mystery of Lookout Mountain is just a Blue Mountain mystery, and Tale of the Brave rehash. The Great Bubbly Build is just something that happened. The Christmas Letter Express is just an overlong rehash of the Last Train for Christmas episode from season 17. And the final movie Sodor sings together was just disappointing. It's an all-right movie on its own, but not as a finale to All Engines Go. The plot is literally just an overlong version of a Season 2 episode, Not So Secret Mission, as both involve the Vickerstown lights being destroyed in an accident, and Thomas having to set things right. The characters sing their final song, and it's over. This honestly felt like a season finale, pointlessly setting some things up for a canceled 5th season, but shoehorning in a final song with the entire main cast of characters is not enough to conclude a show. Nor does this 60-minute remark give Edward, Henry, and Duck a chance to speak, or give Donald and Douglas and the Flying Scotsman a chance to return, instead of teasing their return in a specific and secret way for 26 episodes a season, only for that to be completely forgotten in the final movie. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but this is once again disappointing. My final review for the series, Season 1, was okay. It was setting the scene up for the show by the end of the day, but I didn't want to watch more of it, because it really wasn't all that good. Season 2 was such a bigger improvement upon Season 1. It's kind of like the classic series where Season 1 was okay, Season 2 was better, Season 3 was good, Season 4 was great, and Season 5 was phenomenal. That's something I expected to happen here, even in a show that completely disrespects the source material. Season 1 was okay, Season 2 was better, but then both Seasons 3 and 4 were just such a letdown and were such a disappointment. I won't go off saying they were bad. I won't go off saying they were okay either. They're just something that happened, and that's it. They're really disappointing seasons, and it honestly doesn't feel like they had a plan with what they wanted to do after Season 2. They just greenlit those seasons just to make an extra dollar and nothing else. Overall, as a whole, I don't think it's a bad kids' show in general. I think the writing and morals are better than something like the Miller era, but it's still a bad reboot that destroys the legacy of Thomas and Friends. It isn't anything new or special and just serves as a cash grab from Mattel. Teen Titans Go and the Bob the Builder reboot are trash reboots and are trash shows. All Engines Go is essentially a trash reboot that just so happens to be an okay show. But saying Mattel should go bankrupt for making All Engines Go or even the Bob the Builder reboot is actually stupid and unrealistic. Sorry if I used to think that at first, but that shouldn't be the case, because they also own things like Barbie and Hot Wheels, and we even got a Barbie movie in 2023 that skyrocketed in popularity and overlapped with Oppenheimer that saved cinemas for a while. So overall, All Engines Go stands comfortably in its mediocrity and manages to be the least offensive Thomas project we've gotten in the last several years, barring the Brenner era, of course, and I sure hope whatever we're getting in 2026, whether it's a new show or the Mark Forster film, it's more faithful to the original source material, and that the writers have a clear direction of what to do, and that we don't end up with another All Engines Go.